I don't know what to say about the title, except this is the moment when I tell you what I'm going to talk about. And also the moment when I need to figure out how, okay. So it begins at a desert place with thunder and lightning. Enter three witches. And this is the three witches from the Taganka TV performance of Shakespeare's Macbeth. And I guess you all know at the beginning of Macbeth, the three witches meet Macbeth, and the first witch tells him, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Glamis." And he's a little spooked that they know who he is. And then the second witch tells him, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor." And then he thinks to himself, "Oh, stupid witches, they just bothering me, they don't know what they're saying." And the third witch says, "All hail Macbeth, thou shalt be king hereafter." And Macbeth walks away into the fog, not thinking much about it. And then he comes home, and there is king waiting for him, and he promotes him into Thane of Cawdor and complains about Thane of Cawdor. And now Macbeth starts thinking about the witches, and as the night proceeds, he kills the king because, you know, his wife tells him that if witches said that he would kill the king, he probably can't avoid it. And he realizes the prophecy. So this is an example of your self-fulfilling prophecy. I think the witches in the abstract which I sent were the Facebook, where Facebook, just like witches, tells you that most of your friends are participating in Facebook, even at the time when there were 200 or 300 subscribers in 2004. And if they're sufficiently persistent in convincing you this, and convincing sufficient number of people, then sufficient number of people give in and subscribe to Facebook, even though there were no people at Facebook. The people realize the prophecy, and Facebook becomes the king. So why do we give in to that? Why do many great scientists consult horoscope? Why do I need to the messages from 30,000 light years away to approach my life tomorrow more easily? I mean, if lying is so widespread and evolution does its job, then there must be something good about lying. So what is it? Okay, so this is an old slide. There was a time, maybe 5 years ago, when people when some students at least would come in believing that in the efficient market hypothesis. In any case, you know, assuming that if you're a CEO, you must be investing in advertising because you believe that the truth would otherwise not come across. And not once when you believe that the truth about the quality of your products will not come across, then you have no reason to make good products, because that truth that they're good products is not worth as much to you as convincing people that they're good. So it's a kind of negative feedback. The more you understand that the information doesn't come across, the more reason you have to pass it on, and the more reason you have to not bother to pass the true information, because you're fully free to pass whatever you like. So how does that work? And I keep pushing the wrong button. So there are, in fact, you know, it raises a general question, you know, very, very indirectly related with, I mean, it can be derived from Kant. So so one is, you know, what my grandmother would be telling: honesty is the best policy. Obey the laws, or you will get caught. Then at high school they teach you science, I guess, and they tell you that you need to really make sure that your theories of nature are as true as you can manage, because otherwise, if you don't obey laws of nature, you will crash. And last but not least, lying is a strategy of practical reason. Say what you need to get to say to get what you need. And that is the strategy that, that makes us into politicians or all kinds of professions that we despise. But on the other hand, you know, if each of us, if we, I don't know, lying is a rational strategy. If I have had too much champagne and I have been flirting with someone and I genuinely love my wife and my children, will I really be truthful and tell them the truth, the factual truth, which is actually passing what I believe to be the false message that I don't love them? So we're all lying. How does that work? And yeah, I was kind of thinking there must be, since it's a dominant strategy in so many situations, particularly these days, you know, shouldn't logicians pay more attention to it? So so let me show you a model which does what I claimed in the abstract. So, you know, Goedel developed methods for logical theories to encode themselves and invented computation, or Turing, following his idea of programming and encoding, invented computation. But they did not pay attention to the impact of logical theories on their models. The world of models and the world of theories are still strictly separated. And you know, the fact that I have made this logical theory about natural numbers or cardinal numbers won't change much in the universe of cardinal numbers. It will be either true or false, and it won't happen that I will make a hypothesis which will not be true about cardinal numbers, but then I will plug in my theory among the cardinal numbers, and then suddenly my theory will become true. While on the other hand, theories about climate do have this property that if I act upon this theory, then the subject of the theory might change. So can we make such logical systems? So one subject, so they're not talking just about static things, but they're talking about some processes, about some causes and effects. So these processes, I draw them as pictures like this. This is, you know, there were categories mentioned in the previous talk. So you can think about these being, you know, these squares are some processes. They are either some computations, and these strings are the string in string diagrams. These strings are the types of those computations or objects or some morphisms. So you can model then Muhammad Ali as an object in a category, and this was his surname is London. I don't know what, John London or something like that. He's another object in the category, and the knockout is a morphism. And now, and also when we go to school to teach students, that's also a process. And you can have three different kinds of causes, which cause the effects that you produce in the end. And there are various interactions in between, which you can decompose, and you can establish, you can make a theory about what causes what in a course that you teach. All right, so we have one kind of thing are these processes which live in our universe, and also there are theories which we make, and then we interpret them and test our theories in some special process which is called science. And science also, you can think of science as being a big lab, and just like a process eats causes and consumes causes and produces effects, science also consumes causes and produces effects in a lab. And it also consumes a theory, and it aligns these causal processes with the predictions of the theory. And so then there is some process that it is referring to, and we are then it consists, we abstract a process into a theory, and we are testing this theory and checking how much does this theory approximate the process, and we always do our best, and we never know the actual truth, and we're striving to disprove this theory and to improve it and so on. So this is the narrative which you all know, but all that I want to do here is to plug in this standard narrative into a formal universe. So we have this universe of processes. One of them is a science, and we have a universe of types of causes and effects. And one of them is some formal language, be it a programming language. You can think of this also. You can also, if you like, you can think of all of these processes as being computations. And in that sense, then everything that I'm telling you about is a universe of computations with what, if you remember your recursion theory, what Hartley-Rogers would call an acceptable system. So this science is an acceptable system of enumerations, and theories are indices. Okay, and here's the partial evaluation. So sciences split into disciplines, and they can be interdisciplinary, and also all causal theories can they strive to separate the variables, be it hidden or ostensive. So we can separate one of the causes, and we can evaluate it separately within a domain theory, and that will then output a partial theory, which we can then pipe into another science, and it will process it. I don't know. So physics can tell you what happens with the atoms, and then it will pipe its theory into chemistry, and then chemists will say, aha, so this is why these two atoms like to clump together into this molecule. And in recursion theoretic terms, this is your SMN lemma or partial evaluation. Okay, and then we have three axioms in logics of testing that I'm not going to formally unleash on you, but here's the picture. Each of these equations is some axiom. So they say in English that every process, whenever you see a process, you can describe it somehow. Oh, look, an airplane fell on my head. No matter how imprecise it is, but you will explain it to yourself somehow, and then you can experiment to see. And then also every theory models something. You can go out and try to model it. And variables can be separated, so you can try and understand parts of the processes, and theories then can be this evolution of theories can be viewed as a process itself, which we then call learning, and all these things can be plugged together and separated. So all that we're doing is we then develop like propositional logic, like propositional operations. We use some of these computational composition operations within this abstract framework to implement these three axioms, and then we can prove some theorems. So, and these theorems capture a bit of this lying business. So, in contrast with Gödel, every theory can make itself consistent, crazily enough. Well, first of all, every theory can make sure that it is consistent with itself. It's the most basic fixed point theorem. So for every process, what am I doing here? Explanation. First, I need to tell you that these processes, of course, are the inputs are some causes, and some of the inputs can be of type of language of your theory, or language of your programming language, of language of your legal system. So whichever language you use to describe these processes. And this input variable is a causal factor just like any other causal factor. So it it impacts the processes. So explanations may impact the processes to which they refer. And they can be made self-consistent. Using these three axioms, we can prove that for every given process, there is a theory such that if I feed this theory as the factor into this process, then the way this process will behave will be exactly as the theory predicts. So the processes can be as soon as a process can be explained by a testable theory, it can be explained by a theory that explains its own impact. And all that is needed for this is that this theory can partially evaluate its impacts on processes. And we know that we have assumed that we can separate out the factors into disciplines of sciences. So a particular discipline of our science, of our theory of sciences, is the question how sciences impact their subjects. You know, do climate scientists really impact the climate, be it by driving their cars and flying to their conferences, or by not managing to convince their politicians to follow their advice. Okay, so as soon as we precompose our process by this theory of impact of theories, and we produce, so this T now is the theory which explains how self-application of theories impacts the given process. That gives me this claimed self-consistent theory, because as soon as I plug that into my, as soon as I plug this theory into my self-explanation, I will get science that will be testing this theory that I have formed on itself, and I can test it on two copies of itself. And there's the fixed point. There's this theta, which is self-consistent. So that was easy. So in a sense, we have proved a fairly trivial thing that which logicians would say that they could buy you that from the outset, but they weren't completely successful in proving, for instance, that arithmetic is consistent. So while yes, I mean we do have tools to make sure to find inconsistencies if we're lucky, but in principle we can make sure that that a theory will make itself consistent, even if it can't prove itself consistent. It can make itself consistent by interfering with the processes of validating itself. All right, so slightly more complicated. So, I mean, you know, what's the point of formalizing all of this? I'm talking about lies which involve politicians lying, which involve spouses lying, which involve good things such as, you know, Tolstoy lying about Anna Karenina, or all of these movies lying that things are happening which are not happening, us going into theater and watching people quarrel which don't really quarrel. So there are these, you know, there are these entire disciplines of culture which are producing, you know, agreed lies. So what's the point of formalizing all of this? Well, you know, let's see how much further it gets us from an average short story writer secret like some of us. So the other one is that actually you can, so let me read it. If a process can be explained by a testable theory, then it can be explained by a theory that explains the outcomes that are inconsistent with its predictions. So I'm the president of the United States, and I'm not really sure how many people might die of the virus. But if I look at my past experience of making claims, I will realize that actually the best strategy for me might be to just predict that it's going to be okay, because if it's not okay, I will probably be able to get out of it by producing another such statement of the same type, which I will not be sure about. So I'll just be kicking this can of truth down the road, and you know, the road is finite anyway, so maybe I'll manage to kick it all the way down the road. It seems like a rational strategy, at least as rational as admitting that I had no idea what's going on. And the construction is similar like the, and you know, and in logical model, we can prove that this is a rational strategy. You know, there is definitely, if you give me a process, there is a theory which when I apply it, it will also be applicable to the output states of my process in such a way that I will always be able to explain away anything that I did not predict. And here's the construction. Again, you take this self-application, and yeah, it's a longer proof, but this is what it looks like. And then you can get to an extreme case. If a process can be explained by a testable theory, then it can be explained by false theory. I just choose to claim whatever I like, and it's even inconsistent with the existing evidence. But I will steer the process towards validating it and towards obstructing the falsifications. And that's a complicated construction. And you know, I mean, this is not a math audience. But on the other hand, I think there is a general message that some processes, you know, it is okay to fictionalize them, and some processes are harmful when fictionalized. So I think my message is that there's some business for logicians there. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments, please?
Yeah. Maybe you can stop sharing the screen so that we see each other's faces. Or yeah. I was wondering. I mean, this has very strong resonances of what Fernando mentioned at some point, Peirce's studies. And I'm not a specialist in Peirce. There are some people who know about Peirce in this audience here, but this sort of final question and this sort of situation brings reminiscence of that. I don't know if anyone wants to develop on this.
It's late in the evening on your side, and it's early on my side, so I'm not sure what I said. So, you know, it's no questions, and going to have your dinners is also okay.
No, I actually have a question. I'm just waiting for others to finish. Can I ask my question then?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Mana.
Yes, so first of all, I have to congratulate you with all my heart, because you are the first human being who has been able to develop a logic for Donald Trump. So this is excellent. I hope it doesn't get used in his election campaign to help him convince the rest of us that he has some logic. But I had understood from your abstract that you have actually implemented something about this logic. Is this true, that you have an implementation?
Well, I mean, it's a part of, you'll be amused to know that I gave a very close approximation of this talk to sponsors within US government, and with the picture of the president and everything. And I ended the talk by thanking my parents for supporting me through school, by thanking God for bringing me to the earth, and by thanking the president for providing me with the inspiration. And you know, the sponsors really actually love this. It's a part of the project for recognizing the billion-dollar question is recognizing deceit. You know, the people not noticing that if deceit is recognized, that their own deceit will be recognized. You know, I mean, Facebook has been struggling to find, you know, billions of people to recognize, to filter, and everyone has been filtering the bots and well, and other prohibited content. So the project is towards logics of deceit, and we're building. I mean, I can't say that I have a, you know, running prototype recognizing deceit, but we are developing little scripts which are processing, which plug in, which eat outputs of the various natural language processing modules, and they try to extrapolate. I mean, there are these, I don't know how many people read New Yorker, but in New Yorker, you could have read the article about this company in San Francisco, which hasn't been publishing anything, but you can give them a paragraph of your paper in philosophy or in sociology or even in math, and then it thinks and trains, and then it gives you another paragraph of your paper, and it predicts. You know, it sounds like you, even to you. I mean, it sounds like me to me. So we are processing these things and trying to find fixed points, which are these self-perpetrating lies. It's amazing that logic is producing, that formal model is producing even better lies than people.
Mm-hmm. But can you recognize their lie? Can your program recognize their lie?
I mean, you know, as much as you can recognize a theorem. It's not easier. You sometimes can, if you're lucky, you know, but there is no. It is definitely not something that is guaranteed to terminate. So some of them, yes, and not at the industrial scale, but yes. I mean, we can model. A lot depends on, you know, I'm modeling it. I'm modeling a very high level thing, and I'm looking at the logical structures and at complexity of each pattern that is being produced. But it's when you and I are recognizing lies. So Google tells you about that. Google is this engine which is the result of, before, I don't know how many of you remember, but before Google there was Alta Vista, and they were trying to recognize porn sites, and the message was, you can't recognize lies, you can recognize liars by developing the reputation system. So you and I, when we are recognizing lies, we are looking at the incentives, and we are trying to probe, to authenticate the person by the context, and that is out of the range of any research project. So I think I'm managing to model this, but I'm not managing to recognize, you know, lies that were of a politician. But I think in order to do that, the fact that you and I are able to recognize that is that we know the reputation of that politician. And if deployed, a system like this would have to look at that, at economic incentives, at reputation, and so on.
Thank you.
I just wanted to have a small comment. our master of logic here in Colombia, Professor of Andrés and me and many other logicians in Colombia, Javier Caicedo, produced like 50 years ago his first article about something very beautiful, which is an axiomatic system about non-theorems of the classical propositional logic, the non-theorems. So it would be very interesting to see if that axiomatization of the non-theorems in classical logic is somewhat related to what you are doing, Professor.
Thank you. I would appreciate a reference in some way. I don't know whether...
Okay, we will send you the article in some moment.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Duško.
Hi.
Hi, good to see you.
Long time no see.
So long, long time no see. So first of all, I want to tell you where I am. I am here in Styria in my swimming vacations, but currently I'm in a Styrian restaurant belonging to a brewery. So I want to show you a little bit. Can you see something? I don't know. Yeah. Waiters. So it's a very beautiful old restaurant belonging to the Goedel brewery. And I followed your talk all the time on my mobile, on my cell phone. I thank you very much for this great talk. I just want to have a minor comment on what you said at the beginning when you said self-fulfilling prophecy, etc. I mean, I just want to give another example, namely when you have a company and we want to have investors, then generally most investors don't want to invest alone. They say, well, yeah, I don't invest, but maybe if some other does, then I would, etc. Yeah. So that's investor A. Then we go to investor B and say, investor A invests. Would you also like to invest? You know, why? We don't tell him if you invest, then investor A invests. We tell him investor A invests, and clearly this becomes true if investor B also invests. So it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, but the self-fulfillment lies, let's say, in the mind of the beholder, in the mind of company B. If company B says no, the entire thing is irrelevant, so it was not a lie in a certain sense, yeah? But if company B says, hey, yes, then I will also invest, yeah? Then it becomes true that A invests, and so, you know, and so actually we shouldn't probably term this a lie. We shouldn't call this a lie because we know that it is in a certain sense self-fulfilling. It's not truth, it's not lie. It's a kind of pre-truth that becomes truth. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, there are lots of logicians here. I think we need to, you know, for me, there's a couple of books which don't belong strictly into logic, but which are by their contents all about logic. One is George Soros's, I don't remember what the name of the book is, but he's telling about the reflexivity of the market. And I think in that he is referring to Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, who is talking about market factors very close to what Georg just mentioned, being the beauty context. Keynes' beauty context is, I mean, his example is not very politically correct nowadays, but but logically the structure is there, that there is the committee in a beauty context, and that their task is not to evaluate beauty. There's no such thing as objective beauty. Their task is to evaluate what the majority of the committee will play on. So it's like the majority game as opposed to the minority game.
Mm.
But I killed the conversation. I hope I didn't kill the conversation personally, but maybe by the fact that it's late in the evening.
Well, let's see. Is there anybody else who wants to raise any matter? Or shall we call it a day? Okay, well, thank you all very much for attending, and let's thank the speakers, in particular Duško just now, that was very interesting talk.
Thank you very much.
So, good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for inviting me. I didn't even say that, but you know how politically incorrect I am. I'm the only person in the world who forgets such things.
Don't worry, Duško. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.